Hey everybody, back again. Been a little bit of a break, but here we go. We're going with FITT, be fit, and the idea of frequency has been covered. I suggest you look at that if you don't mind. It's the base video. With once again, frequency is how often. We just covered intensity. That's how hard. And then this is about time, which is how long in the gym. And then the last T is type, and everything goes to that last T. What's your goal? And that's real critical. I can't stress that enough. Plus, talking about stress, um, make sure you do see a doctor prior to starting any exercise program. You want to make sure everything's okay. So, for example, if I was going to get into this with you and you're going to talk to me about training, it would be about the idea of, are you a diabetic, for example? That's very important because of the way your blood glucose operates. You don't want to put yourself in any kind of danger. Hypertension, if that's a factor, that has to be known because it does dictate quite a bit of what can and cannot be done within a safe measure. But absolutely, exercise has been proven to be effective in any case, in any way. In fact, that's what this is about. Really, when I'm telling you about time, I'm not just going to sit here and give you a cookie cut program. I told you. As far as time in the gym, this is really about resistance training. I'm not trying to knock out cardio and say it doesn't matter. It does. Now, let me start with that. In 1968, a guy named Kenneth Cooper produced a book called Aerobics. And his book basically became gospel for everything in the fitness industry. And so everything was related to cardio and aerobics and cardio and aerobics. And in fact, when you read most of the reports coming about how much exercise you should get, the standard right now is 150 minutes a week. It's 150 minutes, and they're basing it on aerobic or cardio. And I'm not against it. However, I am promoting resistance training. Cardio is just as effective, and the two go together. Now think about it. Blood. If I'm going to go in and do some weights, how in the world is that working? It's the blood's being pumped. That is the heart. And in fact, a couple last amount of research that came out showed this. Harvard University did an institutional study on this. There was a recent article I read in Washington Post back in August of 2020, where a series of experts were asked about this, and they all said absolutely, resistance training is just as important. In fact, quite a bit of research was done dealing with specifically the heart and the idea of the amount of fat, adipose tissue. The heart has fat tissue that goes around it. And they're talking specifically about the pericardial, outside the heart, and then inside the heart too. And the interesting thing that came out of this was with resistance training, it effectively handled that. There's, in other words, lessened it. And so I'm an advocate ever since, I've been in the gym of weightlifting. And what I'm going to try to do is tell you about time in there. Now, time is one of the biggest problems. And I try to write down in here a little schedule because I understand I'm a working adult and I understand the problem of time. Right now with the pandemic, time has definitely been altered a little bit for some of us. But as far as time goes on a typical schedule, if you're going into a typical, let's say 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job, you have to figure out where in the day you have those slots open for you to perform those exercises. Now, you don't need to be 2 hours in the gym. You're not trying to make the Olympics or anything like this. I wouldn't worry about this. Or doing double splits or whatever in that case. If you're the average person, okay, and I'm an average person, I want to go in and get the most effectiveness out of my exercise program. And with time, we're talking about the word duration. And that is directly related to intensity. If I was in the gym for 2 hours, my intensity level would not be very high. I could lie to you and say it's very high, but that's not true. If my duration is very long, I don't understand how my intensity is very high. So with that in mind, you have to think about this, and I'll get to sets and rep schemes. It's going to go right back to intensity. That's about counting. I told you time under tension, right? But it's about how much rest time you have. The average set, if I do 10 reps, and by the way, I told you 10 reps is ideal, and this kind of goes back to the idea of muscle recruiting. All this is going together, if you haven't figured this out, is muscle recruitment. You're going to have a low threshold and a high threshold of muscle recruitment. It's those fibers in a muscle that you're lifting and exerting. And I told you the analogy of trying to push, let's say, my Dodge Ram truck. If I'm trying to push it, I'm a little fiber, and there's no way I'm going to be able to do this effectively. But if I get more fibers, if I recruit more people, then that load, that weight can move easier. That's the whole objective of weight training. That's it. And so when you think about it, what I want to do is lift heavier weights eventually, but I'm using the sets of 10 to measure that. That's 75% of my 1 rep max. So why am I saying this? Go back to how much time it takes you to do 10 reps. As long as you're not doing them like this, like I said, and you're doing them at a pace. And remember, explode out 2, down easy, counting 4, the negative, the eccentrics where you really gain the muscle. And when you think about this, the more I do that time under tension, that's why 8 to 10 reps, you're recruiting more fibers. That's the key. And when you recruit those more fibers, you go from that low threshold to the high. You don't want to just skip over it. You want to go from that low threshold of recruiting those lower threshold fibers first, which is the first couple reps you do. And then after a while, they can't do it anymore, so they need somebody else to push that weight like it pushed the truck. And they're going to recruit those higher threshold fibers. And I told you the white fiber fires off and is exhausted on a quicker basis. They're explosive than the red fiber. But both fibers are necessary. In my calves, in your calves, you have higher ratio of red fiber. Because I told you about falling down like old guys like me. As you get into the quads and the legs, it's a mixture. And the chest in this area up here in the back actually has a lot more white fiber, but you still have a mixture. You still need to be able to recruit those fibers. Time under tension. Okay, so why does this matter? If you think of how many sets, if I do 3 sets of 10, that takes time. But it's not going to take me, if I do each one within about 30 seconds, a little bit more than that maybe, is how long it takes me to do each set. The rest of it is the rest time in between. And if the rest time is 60 seconds or the rest time is 90 seconds, that's it. The heavier weight lift, your rest time should go up. If the weight's not as heavy, your rest time should go down. I told you the 4 things you can do dealing with intensity. You can either increase the resistance, increase the reps, increase the volume, the numbers of total sets you're doing, or you can decrease the rest time. As long as your form is good, everything's fine in any of those 4 categories. So when you look at your standard day, you got to find that break or that period or that opportunity. We all have 24 hours. Now I'm going to say this also. I learned my ABCs, and I'm going to give you a video on it, whether you like it or not, later on. Michael Jackson taught me my ABCs, or Big Bird, whoever, take your pick. A is nutrition, B is rest, sleep, C is training. You're not in the gym that long. You're talking about time. If you're in the gym for 2 hours, you're nuts. I'm just being honest with you. But the whole bottom line is that one is the most important. A comes first. And nutrition, I haven't gone into it, is very vital. Okay? It determines the recovery. It determines if you're going to make new muscle or not. Muscle remodeling is the term you're going to hear if you ever get into the strength training books. And strength training, by the way, to me, is the way to go. Lean body mass. Why? Because science has said this over and over again, my friends. It burns more. So someone's sitting there saying, gee, I want to lose weight. I'm going to get on it. No question. Cardio, you'll do it. But let me tell you, resistance training will do it just as effectively. And all this has to do with science. And I'm not going to try to get into it with you here. It's a lot to really deal with. And in fact, if you're talking about the idea of insulin, and you're talking about the idea of being insulin dependent, one of the things is insulin, the doors kind of closes the way it's always been explained to me, so the insulin can't get in to the areas it needs to get into in order to deal with those that are diabetic. The bottom line is bigger muscles are like bigger bins for storage. You can deal with that blood sugar more effectively. So you have to think about resistance training. I'm not saying it is the answer, and I'm not denying cardio. So let's look at this. So let's say if you get up at 0600, 6 in the morning, you're going to feel, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Okay, people get up earlier, but this is where discipline comes in. Anything and everything you do in any kind of training involves discipline. And if you're going to say, well, I'm not worth it, yes, you are. Think of how come Tom Brady's still around. Okay, doesn't it amaze you? And all these other athletes in their older age, I mean, you think about that when you're in your 30s and you're a pro athlete, that's pretty dang old. It's because of their diet, their nutrition. It's because of their training. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, you can do it. You don't have to do a Tom Brady or a LeBron James program. If you get up at 6 in the morning, you make this a habit. You got 6 to 8 o'clock, let's say. You got that 2-hour window. Whether that 2-hour window is spent making breakfast or seeing your family at that time, that's great. But if you can find in that 2-hour window an opportunity to do a brief cardio or to go to the gym and do resistance, or if you're at home and you have resistance equipment, you invest in that, then do it there. But get the resistance in. Then you have your day, 8 to 12. You have your lunch hour. So you have 2 hours in the morning, let's say 1 hour here in the middle of the day where you're going to eat your lunch. But you can also break that into 2 parts. You can eat a little bit, probably 20-minute meal, and then you have a little bit of time. But I want to eat first, by the way, do a little bit of exercise, then do a 20-minute meal at the end. By the way, that's good because your muscles are looking for something. Okay, when you're done, it'll absorb it quicker into your muscle cells. This is called a supercompensation effect. I know it's been heavily argued by different researchers lately. Please bear with me. Okay, I'm still a believer in it. Okay, and then the bottom line is you get home, let's say, at 5 in the evening, all the way to 10 at night. Why? Because that's your 8 hours of sleep. I know I put 8 hours down. It's optimal. It's optimal. If you can get those 8 hours of sleep, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to perform better. And sleep has to do with muscle growth. It's just science of it. Okay, so why I'm saying if you can get this regimen, this habit, this routine, then you can think of a 7-day week. And you think I need 20 to 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week, you can slot that in. And then I need maybe 35 to 50 minutes in the gym for resistance training. You're good. You don't need to be 2 hours in the gym. I knew somebody, and it made sense to me, and they said because of testosterone level. By the way, muscle growth is based on hormones. And hormones interlock with the intensity of your workouts. I'm telling you right now, it's a scientific fact. And so when you look at the idea of the anabolic hormones, not steroid, anabolics naturally in you, is you want to instill growth. And that's the key. Hormones are absolutely essential to muscle growth and muscle development. So when you think of it this way, you get sleep that's also beneficial to hormonal development. And when you talk about exercise, intensity is equally so. So let me say this. If you're a male like me and I'm older, I go into the gym, I really want to do it within 30 to 35 minutes. The reason is my testosterone is going to start dipping. For women, I know you have testosterone, but you also have estrogen. And so the whole idea is you want to think of that as well. So I would say 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes is optimal. Okay, that includes, when you go into time, first thing is psychological, your mindset first. You want to have a little bit of time to get your mindset, whether you're driving to the gym or you're getting ready to do anything else. I'm dead serious. The second thing is then warm up. Warm up should be 5 minutes. Then you do your workout, and then you do a cool down. And you want to have a flexibility in there too. You want to do a little bit of some stretching. I haven't gotten into flexibility yet. And so you want to kind of have a routine. As you go through that, and I told you about how long it takes you to do the sets and how long it takes you in between on the rest time, you figure it out. It works within that 35 to 45 minute time frame. All right? And I haven't gone into programs yet, but this is kind of the idea. At the top here, you can have a 4 on 1 off. Okay, that's a popular program. And notice how I break it down. I break it down A, B, C, D. A would be shoulders and biceps. It should be. I had to write it down. Yeah, A should be shoulders and biceps. B's legs. C's chest and triceps. D would be your back. And then you notice how on a 7-day week, I said you go A, B, C, D, day off, 4 on, 1 off. Then you start it again on that day. You don't worry about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You do this. So why does this matter? This would be a shorter routine within the gym. I can go in and do my shoulders and biceps rather quickly. And then I give it adequate rest. Remember, 48 to 72. Now, in some cases, this also becomes problematic because you don't have the 48 to 72 hours between the workouts. However, you're hitting different body parts. You're splitting it. And that becomes the argument. Now, the 4 on 1 off, though, definitely works with a quicker time pace. If I only have 30 minutes to go into the gym, I can do this. The legs and the back day might be the only ones that are more difficult. Legs and back are really important. By the way, when you work the bigger body parts like legs or like back, it's been Absolutely shown. It increases muscle growth not only in legs and back, but overall. That's why big movements, okay, usually work out. Your squats, your deadlifts. Your back's bigger than your chest, okay, but the bench is a major movement, okay? So your big rows in the back, your cleans that people do, the power cleans, and then, of course, your ever-present squats and deadlifts. Absolutely, I would agree doing those types of movements. Even if somebody says, well, I don't want to, be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. I'm not saying you're going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. We can talk about genetics at a different time if you wish. Okay, I'm sorry. Then you got a 2-on-2 off. You can do it that way. And notice I put in, this is where you get a bigger grouping. Okay, so here you got legs, you got back, because those two are kind of relative. Now, that's a hard day. But legs and back, and then you got biceps, then you got chest, you got shoulders, you got triceps. And you go 2 days on. This is A, this is B. You go 2 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 2 days off. You can do it that way. But you have to have an understanding of what you're going to do with each body part prior to going in. It's a lot of planning. Okay, and then the last one that I'm putting on here, now this is the only one, is 2-on-1 off, where you can do back and biceps. This is the pushing together, and the chest, the delts, that's the shoulders, and the triceps, that's the pushing. Okay, I'm sorry, back and biceps pulling. Okay, chest and triceps pushing, so we know this. And then legs is C, and you see how you go 2-on-1 off. A, B, then take a day out, then C's on its own. Okay, then all of a sudden you go back to A because it's 2, day off. And so you can stagger this all kinds of ways. Now, if you don't like that, you can go to the ever-present Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday right here. So you can do that if you wish. But if you go in and try to do your whole body, that's a lot of time. And that's a lot of impact. And I've seen programs written like this, and I think that's great. But this is about time. The old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Now, I don't know why I'd want to sit around and skin a cat how many different ways, but the reality is there's a lot of different ways to do it. Time is what you make of it. I teach at New Mexico Military Institute. And one of the number one things, the 2 phrases, the 2 words, time management, time management. We tell cadets, young students this. They roll their eyes and everything else. They think it's just there at MMI. And I tell them, you don't understand, you're being trained for far more than just MMI. You're being trained for life. Here I am, a parent. You got all kinds of things going on. I get it. But you got to take that time. You have to. It's a discipline. It is in essence. And you'll feel better. You'll feel better. Exercise is not just physical. This has absolutely been proven by science over and over again. And anybody that's done exercise knows the difference. If you are an avid person that exercised regularly, you know how you felt. And if you get out of it for a while, you also know how you feel. I love it. Now, whether you want to call it fitness, or whether you want to call it healthy lifestyle, or what have you, call it what you want. Strength training is what I call it. If strength is the ability to exert force, endurance is the ability to exert force repeatedly. Power is the ability to exert force rapidly over time. Okay, powerlifters don't want it sitting there on their chest down, and then the exhale. I don't want to get into that. There is a point where you breathe. They're very well trained people in powerlifting. Okay, so one other side note too. Today I watched the Today Show. I love the Today Show. Since we've had our long break here at MMI, and with the pandemic and everything else, I fell in love with the Today Show. And on the Today Show, they had something called Today Show Steals and Deals. There were 2 things that caught my attention because it was about fitness. One was an incredible scale that measures your lean body mass. It actually measures your body fat and everything. I know, like, oh, I don't want to see that. You want to see it. You want to deal with it. And the bottom line is it will tell you how well you're doing. If you want to know how well you're doing, take photos, use a scale, but this scale will actually tell you that. You got to go to today.com/steals and deals, and it'll have the scale on there. And they had it for a ridiculous $38. I love it. I got to get one. And then the other one, I had a fitness watch, and I told you should get one. They had a fitness watch. This is a huge amount of money. Normally, I think it was down to like $30 or $40 for this fitness watch. Okay. Invest in yourself. Invest in your ability. By the way, cardio doesn't have to be where you go out and you run 50 miles. I'm going to say this. I'm an advocate of strength training. That's detrimental to people who are in strength training. I do not want to be a marathon runner. If that's your kick and that's your bag, go for it. But it has also been proven that it is not as effective for the growth of muscles. I agree with this. That's why cardio to me is 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm good. I don't care if you do cycling. I don't care if you do rowing machines and stuff. That's very popular. I don't care if you're doing gardening. That's very active. That's great. That's what it's all about, what they call active rest. And that's what you can do as well. But you want to try to find the best formula for you within the day. One program is not the holy grail of all programs. And that's why I made that joke to you about when we were younger, we used to look in the bodybuilding magazines and see what, bodybuilder we wanted to be, and we'd pick theirs. How stupid to me to pick Arnold Schwarzenegger's. I think we're a little different. He's very big. So you have to kind of think about this. By the way, that gets into, and I'll get into later on about shaping. I want to shape my muscles. Your muscles has a shape. Let me just tell you that. It has a shape. I hate that phrase. I'm going to shape your muscles. Your muscles have a shape. Okay? You have a long belly. These are called genetics. Or you have a short belly. You got to make with what cards you've been dealt. Doesn't mean you can't have nice shapes. It doesn't mean you can't improve. I'm just saying you have to come to the realization. Okay? The basics of the basics, good scientific principles of what you want to base this on. But get with a good trainer. Go buy and get a card. My card's at Elite Fitness. My card is also at Roswell Fitness. Thank you, Brandon. We had a nice little conversation. And I'm not training out of there, but he opened the door still for me and said if somebody wants me, I'll be happy to meet you at one of those gyms and just talk to you about some things. If money's an issue, talk to me. I can usually kind of find a way, but I'm doing this part-time. Please understand. And then on top of that, I'm going to try to get into a couple other gyms around this town if I can. Planet Fitness, this is no way. So I won't be there. But if you need to, drop me a line, get that card. My phone number's on there. Or I'm on Facebook. Drop a message to me on Facebook. I'd be happy to try to respond to you or get with you. Okay? So that's the segment on time. Time is what you make of it. All of us. And my day's busy. Teachers, if you're a teacher, you understand what I'm saying. It's not 7 to 3. I wish. You do a lot more of it out. I get that. But if you can find that time and adjust the schedule accordingly, you can probably do it. You do not have to be in the gym for hours and hours on end. Okay? It's the effectiveness of the intensity. FITT. Frequency, how often, kind of covered a little bit here, so it's all interrelated. The intensity, I told you, low, moderate, high. By the way, we'll get into that later on about what's called periodization. You should change it. You shouldn't always go hard all the time. You're going to burn out. You're going to get into what's called overreaching or overtraining. And then the other part of it, when you want to think about, is the T is time. They all go together in the type. This is it. It all goes together. Basically, what you're going, what do you want to do? That type then dictates everything else. Okay, it's not one size fits all. Not everybody's going to advocate a 4-on-1 off or be beneficial for that. No. And not everybody's going to do a 2-on-2 off. But you want to avoid overreaching and overtraining. And that's what this is about. Okay? All right. So thank you. You guys have a good night. All right. And if you need something, let me know. Please drop me a line. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.